The Galaxy Council had always claimed to stand for peace, balance, and unity among the stars. For centuries, the different alien civilizations trusted its laws and judgments. Humanity was a young member of this council, but in a short time they rose quickly. Their colonies grew, their fleets expanded, and their technology surprised even the oldest species. To many, the humans were a marvel. To others, they were a threat. In a secret meeting chamber, the council gathered to discuss the fate of Earth. Representatives from powerful empires stood in the great circle, their eyes glowing with cold judgment. The human seat was empty. No one had invited them. For hours the debate went on. Some said that humans were too bold, too dangerous, and too quick to advance. Others argued that if humanity was left unchecked, they might one day dominate the galaxy. Whispers of fear filled the chamber, and fear turned into a decision. Without a single human present, the council voted. The result was betrayal. Humanity was to be cast out. Trade routes were closed. Human colonies were declared illegal. Allies were ordered to cut ties. The council broadcast its decree to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity was no longer welcome. The reaction across the stars was mixed. Some cheered, believing that a dangerous rival had been stopped before it was too late. Others felt uneasy, sensing that something was wrong. But no one dared challenge the council. To the galaxy, it seemed that Earth had been defeated without a single battle. On Earth, the news was received with silence. There were no grand speeches of protest, no angry declarations. Human ambassadors simply returned home. Colonies across the stars went dark. Fleets withdrew from foreign borders. To outsiders, it looked like surrender. The council believed they had broken the humans. They told themselves the problem was solved. Yet behind closed doors, humanity was watching. Humanity was waiting. In the shadows of their homeworld, leaders from every nation gathered. Old rivalries were forgotten. Petty conflicts were pushed aside. For the first time in history, Earth was united under one purpose. The betrayal had lit a fire that would never be put out. Humanity did not shout. Humanity did not beg. Instead, they planned. Every shipyard on Earth and its colonies began working in silence. New designs appeared, ships larger and more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. Factories ran without pause, creating weapons and systems no alien had ever imagined. Engineers and scientists worked in hidden facilities, far from prying eyes. The council's spies tried to find answers, but they found nothing. To them, Earth looked quiet, perhaps even broken. But under the surface, a storm was building. Decades passed. In those years, other species expanded into territories once linked to humans. Alien fleets patrolled near old human colonies, confident there would be no resistance. Humanity did not interfere. Their silence made the galaxy careless. In council halls, the subject of Earth was rarely mentioned. When it was, the elders laughed. They believed the humans had accepted their punishment. They believed the danger was gone. They believed they had won. They were wrong. Out in the darkness of deep space, fleets of human warships began to vanish from known records. Entire armadas slipped away without notice, heading to secret locations known only to Earth's high command. Some aliens whispered about strange movements, about human convoys disappearing into uncharted space, but no one listened. The council dismissed the rumors. After all, the humans were finished. Or so they thought. The betrayal was complete, and the galaxy moved on. But in the quiet halls of Earth, a single truth echoed again and again. Humanity would remember. Humanity would not forgive. Humanity would answer. And when they answered, the galaxy would never forget what silence had hidden. The story of betrayal had only begun. Years passed after the betrayal, and the galaxy slowly forgot about humanity. The council had removed Earth from its circle, and most believed the story was finished. Trade lanes shifted to other empires, and alien colonies took the space once used by humans. Old allies who once shook hands with human leaders now turned their faces away, pretending the friendship had never existed. For the galaxy, Earth was silent, and silence was the same as defeat. But the truth was different. Humanity was not defeated. Humanity was preparing. From the outside, Earth looked weak. Colonies no longer sent signals across the stars. Human ships rarely crossed alien borders. Markets once filled with human goods were empty. To alien eyes, it seemed like the fire of Earth had burned out. The Council called it proof that their decision was right. They believed the humans had lost the will to fight. But in the shadows of deep space, something else was happening. Hidden stations were built in forgotten orbits. Massive shipyards were buried inside asteroid fields, invisible to passing eyes. Engineers worked day and night, not for survival, but for vengeance. Their blueprints were not for ordinary ships but for giants, colossal war machines that no alien could imagine. These ships did not fly for exploration or trade. They had one purpose: war. On Earth itself, the people remembered the betrayal like a wound that never healed. Generations grew up hearing the story of how the Council had cast humanity aside. The tale was told in schools, in homes, in every corner of society. Children learned early: trust no one beyond Earth. They learned that one day, the silence would end. Humanity carried its anger not in shouts, but in determination. As years turned into decades, the galaxy's attention moved elsewhere. Wars broke out between rival alien empires. The Council became busy settling disputes and controlling rebellions. With so much noise across the stars, no one cared about the quiet human world. They believed Earth was small, unimportant, and forgotten. But rumors began to spread. Merchant captains whispered of convoys that never returned after entering human space. Patrol fleets reported strange signals before disappearing without a trace. Some claimed to see massive shadows moving between the stars, ships larger than anything in Council records. The Council dismissed these reports as mistakes or lies. They told themselves that frightened minds invented ghosts. But a few began to wonder. How could a silent race still cast such long shadows? Deep within human command, the leaders had only one rule: hide the strength until the moment was right. Every fleet that vanished into the unknown was not lost, it was hidden, gathering in secret rendezvous points far beyond mapped space. Entire armadas disappeared from records, not destroyed, but waiting. For the galaxy, this silence was comfort. For humanity, it was the sharp edge of patience. Alien empires grew careless. They built colonies on former human territories without fear. They mocked the memory of Earth in their council chambers. They thought silence meant weakness. But silence was a mask. Silence was preparation. And silence was deadly. One day, an alien scout fleet entered the edge of human space. They expected nothing, just another routine patrol. What they found was different. They recorded glimpses of metallic giants drifting in the void, ships with designs unlike any ever seen. Before the scouts could escape, their signals went dark. Only fragments of their message reached the Council: a single image of a massive ship with a symbol across its hull, the flag of Earth. When the Council saw the image, they laughed. They said the humans were building toys to make themselves feel strong again. They did not understand. The image was not a toy. It was a warning. Humanity's silence had lasted for decades, but it was not weakness. It was waiting for the moment to strike. And the moment was coming. Across Earth's secret fleets, crews trained without rest. Soldiers were drilled to fight not just for survival, but for revenge. Every weapon was tested again and again until perfection was reached. Every system was polished until there were no flaws. Every human knew their role when the order came. The Council might have forgotten humanity, but humanity had not forgotten the Council. The betrayal lived in their hearts like fire, and that fire demanded an answer. The storm had not yet arrived, but the winds were rising. The galaxy did not see it, but something vast was moving in the darkness. Humanity had stayed quiet for so long that the Council had stopped watching. That was their mistake. Soon, they would learn that silence was only the beginning. Soon, they would hear the voice of Earth again, and when that voice spoke, it would speak with fire and steel. The calm before the storm was ending. The Galaxy Council had grown comfortable. Years of silence from Earth had made them believe their decision was perfect. In their grand halls, alien leaders spoke with pride about how they had removed the dangerous humans from the galaxy. They repeated the same lie to themselves, that humanity was finished, that Earth was broken, and that no threat remained. But arrogance is a dangerous thing, and the Council was drowning in it. While they celebrated, alien empires expanded into human borders. Colonies were built on old human routes, mining stations were planted on asteroids once mapped by Earth, and patrol fleets moved freely where human ships once guarded. No one expected resistance. To the galaxy, the humans were only a memory. Yet not all aliens were blind. Traders and captains who traveled near human space spoke in whispers about strange events. They told of patrol fleets that never returned, of merchant convoys that vanished without trace, and of signals cut off in the middle of a transmission. Some described seeing enormous shadows drifting in the void, too large to be ordinary ships. The Council ignored these reports. They called them lies made by smugglers or tricks created by rivals. Their arrogance was so strong that they refused to believe anything was wrong. If they had listened, perhaps they would have seen the truth. Humanity's silence was not weakness. It was patience. In hidden corners of the galaxy, the human fleets were moving. Armadas once thought destroyed were training in secret. New ships, larger than anything in the Council's navy, were gathering in uncharted systems. These were not small fleets made for defense. They were predators waiting for the command to strike. But the Council saw none of this. They were too busy congratulating themselves. In their chambers, alien leaders laughed at the thought of humans ever rising again. They mocked Earth as a planet of fools, too stubborn to survive. They used human territory as a tool for bargaining between empires, selling rights to colonies that did not belong to them. To them, Earth was nothing. To humanity, the Council was everything. The betrayal was not forgotten, and the silence was only fuel for their anger. The first signs of danger appeared when a small alien empire sent a fleet to claim abandoned human outposts. Dozens of warships entered the dark borders where humanity had once lived. The Council watched with pride, certain the humans would not resist. But then, the fleet vanished. Not a single ship returned. No signal escaped the void. At first, the Council dismissed it as an accident. They said the fleet must have hit a black hole or suffered from poor leadership. But then another fleet disappeared. And then another. Entire squadrons that crossed into human space were erased as if swallowed by the darkness. Some survivors were found drifting in escape pods, but their words shook those who listened. They spoke of ships the size of cities, covered in black armor and moving like shadows. They described weapons that cut through fleets in seconds. They described seeing a flag, the flag of Earth, before their ships were destroyed. The Council tried to silence these stories. They told the galaxy it was propaganda, a trick, or the result of madness. But fear began to spread. If humanity was truly broken, then who was destroying fleets on the border? Who commanded those giant warships? The Council's arrogance only grew. They believed if they showed strength, the galaxy would remain calm. So they ordered more fleets, larger and stronger, into human space. They believed that numbers would crush whatever shadows existed there. They did not understand. The shadows were not illusions. The shadows were human warships, built in silence, hidden for decades, waiting for the time to strike. And when these fleets entered the darkness, they too vanished. The Council grew angry. They demanded answers, but none came. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth standing before them. Humanity had not been silent because it was weak. Humanity had been silent because it was preparing. Each fleet that disappeared was not just a loss. It was a warning. A storm was gathering, and the Council was too proud to see it. They thought they had caged Earth forever, but in reality they had given humanity the one thing it needed most: time. Time to build. Time to plan. Time to unite. In the halls of the council, leaders continued to speak with pride, but behind their words, unease grew. Reports of missing fleets could no longer be hidden. Rumors spread like fire across the galaxy. Whispers said the humans were coming back. Whispers said the silence would soon end. Yet still, the council refused to believe. They told themselves humanity could never challenge them. They told themselves no single race could stand against the galaxy. They told themselves the betrayal had ended the story. But in the darkness of human space, the story was only beginning. Humanity was waiting, and when the time came, they would answer with fire. The arrogance of the council would cost them everything. The council believed their power was unshakable. They believed their fleets were unmatched and their authority eternal. When whispers of human warships spread across the galaxy, the council laughed. They called it a myth, a ghost story told by frightened traders. They said no human could build such ships, not after the betrayal, not after decades of exile. But the truth could not stay hidden forever. One day, the council decided to prove its strength. They sent a great fleet into human space, larger than anything seen since the betrayal. Hundreds of ships, from dozens of alien empires, entered the void with confidence. They expected to find silence. They expected to find weakness. What they found was something else. At first, the journey was quiet. Stars burned cold in the distance, and no signals came from human colonies. The fleet commanders mocked the humans, saying Earth had truly become a graveyard. But then the shadows appeared. Strange signals began to echo through the void. Ships reported ghostly readings on their sensors, enormous objects drifting in the dark, here one moment and gone the next. Commanders dismissed them as tricks, but unease spread among the crews. The further the fleet went, the stronger the silence became. It was not the silence of emptiness. It was the silence of something waiting. Then it happened. Out of the black, colossal shapes emerged. They were not like alien ships. They were larger, darker, and far more menacing. Human warships revealed themselves, rising from the shadows like giants. Their hulls glowed with strange energy, their weapons aimed and ready. For a moment, the council fleet froze. They could not believe what they were seeing. Earth had built ships that should have been impossible. Ships the size of cities, armored with black steel, engines burning with terrifying power. Then the first strike began. Without warning, the human warships opened fire. Beams of energy cut through alien cruisers as if they were paper. Missiles streaked across the void, tearing apart battleships in brilliant explosions. Entire squadrons were destroyed in seconds. The council fleet tried to fight back, but their weapons barely scratched the human armor. Their formations collapsed as panic spread. One after another, alien ships vanished in fire. The humans moved with perfect precision, every strike calculated, every maneuver flawless. They had been training for this moment for decades, and it showed. The battle was not a battle. It was an execution. Within minutes, hundreds of council ships were reduced to burning wrecks. Only a handful managed to retreat, engines burning as they fled the slaughter. Among them was one ship allowed to survive. One ship that carried a message back to the council. Its crew was terrified, but they understood their purpose. Humanity wanted the council to know what had happened. When the survivors reached council space, they delivered the message. It was short. It was simple. Only 3 words, one order given. The council chambers erupted in confusion. Leaders shouted, demanding answers. What order? What did it mean? Who had given it? Fear spread across the galaxy as the words were repeated again and again. Some believed it was a warning of invasion. Others said it was a declaration of war. No one knew the full truth. But everyone understood one thing: humanity had returned. The silence was over. The first strike had shown the galaxy that Earth was not broken. Earth was stronger than ever. The The survivors described the ships they had seen, but their words only deepened the fear. They spoke of vessels larger than anything the galaxy had ever built, weapons that destroyed fleets in seconds, and a discipline that no alien force could match. The council tried to calm its people, but their arrogance had already cracked. Their fleets were not invincible. Their authority was no longer certain. A storm was rising, and humanity was at its heart. Across the stars, alien empires began to whisper. Some asked if it was wise to challenge Earth again. Others wondered if they should run before it was too late. But one truth was clear to all: humanity had struck the first blow, and it was only the beginning. In the darkness of space, the human fleets waited for their next command. They had tested their strength, and they had revealed their power. Now the galaxy would tremble, because the one order had been given, and nothing could stop what was coming next. The galaxy shook after the first strike. News spread faster than light, carried by terrified survivors and secret transmissions. Whole empires whispered the same three words: one order given. No one understood what it meant, and that made it even more frightening. The council tried to keep control, but fear was spreading faster than their lies. Every alien leader demanded answers, and every fleet commander wanted to know how entire armadas could vanish in minutes. In the council chambers, arguments erupted. Some claimed the humans had returned with weapons too powerful to fight. Others insisted it was just an illusion, that the survivors had exaggerated the truth. But deep inside, even the loudest voices felt the same fear. Humanity had been silent for decades, and now they had spoken with fire. The galaxy was desperate to know what this mysterious order was. What command had united all of Earth under one banner? What command had given them the strength to build such monstrous fleets? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the humans had sworn an oath to destroy the council forever. Others whispered that Earth wanted revenge against every alien species, not just the council. A few believed that the humans had been building something far greater, a weapon that could wipe out entire worlds. But none of these were the truth. The truth was far simpler. Across human fleets hidden in the dark, the commanders spoke of only one command, one order that had been repeated for generations. The order was not to defend, not to surrender, and not to forgive. The order was to take everything back. Every colony that had been stolen. Every shipyard that had been seized. Every world where humans had been cast aside. Humanity had waited for decades, not to survive, but to reclaim what was theirs. And they would do it with steel and fire. While the council argued in their chambers, human fleets moved across the stars like shadows. They struck without warning. Shipyards belonging to alien empires were reduced to ash. Patrol routes once thought safe were torn apart in minutes. Supply lines carrying resources to council fleets vanished into silence. No one could predict where the humans would strike next, and no one could stop them. Every attack left behind the same message: one order given. Alien spies risked everything to uncover the meaning, but when they finally returned with the truth, the council froze in horror. The order was clear. It was simple. It was unstoppable. Humanity's command was, take everything back. When the council heard those words, they understood the scale of their mistake. This was not just war. This was a campaign of reclamation. Humanity would not stop until every piece of stolen ground was returned. But even worse, they would not stop with just their own territory. The betrayal had burned too deep. The humans would take more than what had been lost. They would take the galaxy itself. Panic spread across alien worlds. Civilizations that had once laughed at humans now trembled at the thought of their fleets appearing in the sky. Some species begged the council for protection, but the council had no answers. Their fleets were already broken. Their strategies had failed. And the humans were always one step ahead. Every move the council made was countered before it began, as if the humans already knew their plans. Whispers of spies and infiltrators grew, but no one could prove it. The truth was worse: humanity had studied the galaxy for decades in silence. They had mapped every trade route, every weakness, every vulnerable colony. And now they were using that knowledge with merciless precision. Alien leaders who once mocked Earth now feared to even speak its name. Whole colonies prepared for evacuation, knowing the humans were coming. Even the strongest empires began to doubt their survival. The Council still tried to hold its pride. They gathered new fleets, called on allies, and promised to crush Earth with overwhelming numbers. But their words rang hollow. Everyone had seen what a single human fleet could do. No one believed the Council's promises anymore. And still, the attacks continued. More shipyards burned. More patrols vanished. More colonies went dark. Every victory for humanity carried the same mark, the same cold reminder, one order given. At last, the Council admitted the truth among themselves. This was not just revenge. This was not just rebellion. This was a new war, a war led by a species that no longer trusted, no longer forgave, and no longer showed mercy. The humans had given themselves one order, and they were following it with terrifying devotion. And the galaxy finally understood what it meant. Humanity was not fighting to return to the Council. Humanity was fighting to replace it. The silence was over. The storm had begun. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They believed their power was eternal, their fleets unbeatable, and their laws unbreakable. But the humans had changed everything. With each passing month, more fleets vanished, more colonies burned, and more empires whispered of surrender. The Council's arrogance had finally turned into fear. In desperation, the Council called for unity. They summoned every allied empire, every loyal fleet, and every resource they could gather. It was the largest armada in galactic history, a force of thousands of ships gathered under one banner. The Council promised their people that this would end the human threat once and for all. Their speeches were filled with pride, but their eyes carried doubt. Deep down, they knew they were facing something far greater than they had ever imagined. The massive fleet moved toward human space, a wall of fire and steel stretching across the stars. The Council believed numbers would win. They believed humanity could not resist the might of the galaxy united. But they were wrong. Humanity was ready. For decades, their fleets had waited in silence. For decades, their engineers had built weapons no alien had ever seen. When the Council's armada entered human space, the trap was already set. At first, the battle seemed even. Alien cruisers and battleships clashed with human warships, filling the void with fire. Explosions lit up the darkness as fleets collided in chaos. But then the humans revealed their true strength. From hidden positions, entire squadrons of stealth ships uncloaked and attacked with perfect precision. Alien vessels were destroyed before they could even react. Massive human dreadnoughts unleashed weapons that bent gravity itself, crushing enemy ships like paper. Cannons of impossible power tore through entire formations with a single strike. The Council's numbers meant nothing. Their fleets fell apart as panic spread. Commanders shouted for reinforcements, but every move was anticipated. Every strategy was countered. It was as if the humans already knew what the Council would do before they even did it. In truth, they did. For years, humanity had studied the Council. They knew their tactics, their formations, their weaknesses. And now they used that knowledge to tear them apart. Alien soldiers watched in horror as their proud armada was reduced to wreckage. Whole fleets that once ruled the stars were nothing but burning debris. The greatest ships of the Council, symbols of their power, were destroyed in moments. And through it all, the human fleets moved like predators, calm and merciless. The Council's dream of victory collapsed into chaos. Thousands of ships were lost, and still the humans pressed forward. They showed no mercy, no hesitation, no weakness. The order was clear: take everything back. By the end of the battle, the galaxy's greatest armada was shattered. Survivors fled in terror, scattering across the stars, their pride broken. The Council itself trembled. For the first time in its history, its power had been crushed. The chamber that once echoed with arrogance now echoed with silence. The leaders who had betrayed Earth understood the truth. Their rule was over. Humanity had risen higher than any of them had feared. Humanity had become what the Council had pretended to be, the true rulers of the galaxy. But the humans were not interested in ruling with mercy or balance. They were interested in justice, and their justice was unforgiving. Word spread quickly across alien worlds. The Council's fleets were gone. Their authority was shattered. Whole civilizations began to surrender without a fight, knowing resistance was useless. Some begged for mercy. Others tried to hide. But no one could stop what was coming. The fall of the Council was not just a defeat. It was the end of an age. The galaxy had been betrayed by its leaders, and now it would be judged by the very species they had cast aside. Humanity had waited in silence for decades, and in that silence, they had built an empire of war. Now the silence was over, and the galaxy was burning. The Council had believed their betrayal would break Earth. Instead, it had united humanity in a way no enemy ever had. And now, as their worlds fell one by one, the aliens began to understand the full meaning of those words, one order given. Humanity would not stop until the Council was erased from history. The betrayal had been answered, and the fall was complete. But even as the galaxy trembled, one question remained. What would humanity do next? Would they rebuild a new order, or would they take everything, leaving nothing behind? The galaxy waited for the answer, but humanity had not spoken yet. They spoke only with fire, and their fire was far from finished. The galaxy had never seen such destruction. The great fleets of the Council lay shattered, their wreckage drifting in the void like broken monuments to arrogance. The Council's proud voices were gone, replaced with silence and fear. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy no longer had a ruler. But a new power had risen from the shadows. That power was humanity. From every corner of space, reports came the same. Human fleets moved like storms, their ships vast and unyielding. Colonies surrendered before a single shot was fired. Entire empires bent the knee, offering loyalty in exchange for survival. The galaxy had learned the truth. Earth was not weak. Earth was not broken. Earth was stronger than all of them. In the ruins of the Council's chambers, the last surviving leaders gathered. Their voices were no longer arrogant. They were filled with fear. They begged for mercy, pleading that the war should end. They promised tribute, alliances, and obedience. But humanity was not interested in promises. Humanity had not forgotten the betrayal. In that hall, for the first time, humans entered as conquerors. The sight silenced every alien present. Human officers in dark uniforms stood tall, their faces calm and cold. They carried no need for speeches. Their very presence was judgment. The Council leaders asked what Earth wanted, what price would end the war. The answer was simple, spoken by the human commander with a voice that shook the chamber. You betrayed us. Now your worlds belong to us. The words struck like thunder. The Council, once proud and eternal, was nothing more than a defeated relic. Their laws meant nothing. Their titles meant nothing. Their power was gone. Humanity had judged them guilty, and the sentence was clear. Across the stars, the new order began. Human fleets occupied former Council worlds, not as allies but as rulers. Planetary governments were dismantled, their leaders replaced with human governors. Those who resisted were crushed without hesitation. Cities burned, and those who survived were forced to kneel. The galaxy watched in silence, too afraid to intervene. Some species tried to rise in rebellion, hoping to prove their courage. But every rebellion ended the same way. Fire from the sky, fleets obliterated, and worlds brought to ash. Humanity's vengeance was unstoppable. They had been silent for decades, and now their voice was war. Yet humanity's judgment was not only destruction. They remembered those few who had shown kindness in the years of betrayal. Small empires that had secretly helped human colonies were spared. Their worlds were left untouched, their people allowed to live. To them, Earth showed mercy, but only to them. Everyone else paid the price. Soon, the galaxy was divided in two, those who bent the knee to Earth, and those who were erased from existence. The age of the Council was over. The age of humanity had begun. But even as the new empire rose, whispers spread across the stars. Some said the humans would stop after taking what was stolen. Others said they would never stop. The betrayal had carved a wound too deep, a wound that could never heal. The galaxy feared that humanity would not rest until every world flew their banner, until no alien voice dared to challenge them again. On Earth itself, celebrations erupted. Generations had waited for this moment. Children who had grown up hearing stories of betrayal now watched their people rule the stars. But behind the pride, there was also something darker. The silence had changed humanity. The years of preparation, the decades of waiting, had made them something the galaxy had never seen before. They were no longer explorers. They were no longer dreamers. They were conquerors. And the galaxy trembled under their shadow. In the final days of the Council, one alien asked a human commander why they had done this. Why had they not accepted peace when the Council begged for mercy? The commander's answer was calm, but it carried the weight of centuries. Because you taught us silence. And in that silence, we learned how to never forgive. The alien said nothing more, for there was nothing left to say. Humanity had spoken, and their judgment was final. The galaxy now belonged to Earth. The Council's betrayal had lit the fire, but humanity's order had carried it to the end. And though the stars still burned in the void, they now burned under the watchful eyes of humanity. The silence was over. The judgment was complete. And the galaxy would never be the same again.